Okay, so welcome, guys. Today we've got two special guests that I'm going to briefly introduce, but they'll give you a bit more about themselves. We've got Faris and Robbie, who are doing big things as dental students. I managed to get to meet them through a podcast that they started. You know the drill. And they also came to Preston. I was surprised they made it all the way up north to the real north to sunny Preston to come and visit me. So really love these guys, good friends, and I'm just going to be really finding out what's the latest in terms of dental school, getting into dental school, and just what their outlook is on dentistry in 2022. So thank you, Faris and Robbie, for coming on. But just shortly, just give us a little soundbite of who you are. Maybe if we start with yourself, Robbie.
Yeah, so hey guys, thank you for the introduction, Dr. Arnold. My name is Robbie Fakori, and I am a fourth-year dental student in London. As Dr. Arnold mentioned, I co-host the You Know the Drill podcast alongside my good friend Faris, who will introduce himself in a minute. Apart from that, I'm an Arsenal supporter, so that's not good. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. It's funny how me and Robbie, just before this, were how we're going to introduce ourselves. So yeah, we're both fourth years studying dentistry in London. Again, my name's Faris, co-host with Robbie on our podcast, and an avid lover of dentistry, of course. And that's how myself, Robbie, and Dr. Arnold kind of met. Just a quick soundbite about me. Really enjoy, cosmetic dentistry, prosthodontics, and have a really keen interest in implants. So yeah.
All right, fantastic. Well, again, thank you guys for taking the time out of your evening to be here with me. You guys do a lot from being dental students. That's enough of a workload as it is. But you decided to burden yourselves with doing the podcast. You guys are traveling, networking, doing the podcast. It's crazy. So I just want to ask quickly, how are you guys doing? How are you guys managing with everything at the moment? Maybe start with Faris.
Great question. I don't know how. We just kind of going with the flow. I think myself and Robbie have a good system. We kind of know when one of us is a bit stressed out and needs a little bit of a break, and the other takes on. We have amazing Path. Shout out to him who edits and helps us with all the clips and audio. But yeah, just generally speaking, the way I kind of try and stay on top of things is just having priorities. So at the end of the day, there's no point doing all of this if I'm going to fail dental school. So I just make sure that I've kind of got a general grasp of things. I'm not as in the books as Robbie. He's the legend when it comes to that. But I try my best to stay on top of things, and I just have my priorities, and I allocate the amount of time that I want for all the important goals that I want to achieve, which includes the podcast and other things as well.
And Robbie, yourself, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, all good. This year has been quite challenging, I'd say. I think priorities is very important, as Faris mentioned, and my other key thing that has been able to, has been like a mainstay with me this year is timetabling. I've really tried to incorporate that a lot more, and just make sure that my schedule runs according to my timetable. As long as that's the case, I'm getting everything I need to get done, pretty much me.
All right. So at the end, I want to get into the top tips that you guys have for those who want to get into dental school, top tips for those that want to make it through dental school, and then also just any other top tips that you might have that might not be covered whilst we're talking through this stream. So let's just start back at how you guys met. If you guys ever explained how you met, how did that even happen? Was it just dental school? And even with dental school, was it you met and you saw each other and that was it? The connection was made.
Locked eyes. Me and Robbie just locked eyes down the on clinics. No, it was actually, I think, and again, Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it all kind of came about with a amalgamation of different things. Yeah, nice little pun there. Anyway, so we're both Egyptian, so we kind of wanted to get to know other Egyptians that were on the course. In our year, I think there's 5 total of us, which is rare for me at least. I only met one other Egyptian through my entire primary, secondary school, all that other stuff. We met each other, we talked a little bit, didn't really go past that. Like, it wasn't a love at first sight kind of thing. Robbie didn't really like me that much. But no, I'm joking. And then what really cemented us was we had like a group project at the end of first year where myself and Robbie kind of got a bit closer. We talked a bit more. And then rest is history. And I think it was nice because everyone kind of worries at dental school if you're going to make friends. It's so much easier than you think. Like, you kind of just meet people. You're going to meet people you like, people you don't like, people you really don't like. But you also meet, people that you start a podcast with. So yeah.
How was it from your side, Robbie?
Yeah, I think the first time I properly met Faris was probably those dinners that he was very key to organizing those. He's kind of like the father of the group. And then we had the group project towards the end of first year as well, so we enjoyed working together. I think Faris was like the manager or something, and I was the leader or something, so we both had like managerial kind of roles within our group, so we got to work closely together. And then I think the real key thing was meeting up in the summer of first year. I went all the way to meet Faris. We had a nice meal together. And then once we started second year, we started getting into our dental families. So you're assigned a couple of the students from the year below. And me and Faris were actually co-parents with another good friend of ours to the children from the year below. And I think that was really what brought us closer together.
Nice. Brothers for life.
Yeah,
indeed.
And was it straightforward for you guys getting into King's? Ranked the number one dental school in the country, in the world. Are you guys still top of the world?
Not the world.
They published the new 2023 rankings 3 days ago. So I'm not sure. So maybe we are, but if I had to guess, we're normally like top 5. Yeah, but that's kind of like associated to research.
Lex, you go for it, man.
Yeah, why not? Like, why not? Like, we're all right. We're doing all right. So yeah.
How did you guys find that getting into King's? How was it for you guys? Was it smooth sailing?
Yeah, it's really funny because me and Robbie had a really different experience of getting into King's. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, just straight to the point. Like, I, touchwood, very, very lucky, very blessed with like the circumstances I have and the resources I had. I found it very easy. It wasn't much of a challenge just because I was prepped very well, and I had like when I went to a grammar school for secondary, and like we had like different a lot of projects and stuff where I got to build my communication skills. So I loved interviews. All of them were really, really enjoyed them. So the process for me wasn't too bad, and luckily I got my offer for King's maybe like I think it was a week after I finished my interview, and that was in December. So I was very lucky. So yeah, like it was. Yeah, I was very. Yeah, it was a fun experience. I'll be honest. I loved interviews.
Robbie, how did it go for you?
Yeah, complete opposite. So actually, my UK cat, which is now called the UCAT, was really good. Thankfully, I ended up getting my interviews at 3 out of my 4 unis. And then when it came to interview, I guess the correct term is I fumbled the bag. I don't interview quite so well. Well, I didn't back then anyways. I think I've become a bit less shy now, but so they actually, all of the universities that gave me an interview rejected me. King's put me on the waiting list. They basically said, we're waiting for people to like firm us or reject us and on their UCAS application. So if there's any opportunities, we'll let you know by the end of March, I think it was. And I had my interview all the way back in December. So I was waiting about 4 months. And then finally, one day before the deadline, they said, we have a space for you. So that was a relief. But my journey was completely different to Faris's.
Gosh, so it took us to the wire.
Yeah, literally.
Was that the one dental school that you're waiting on?
Sorry?
Was that the one dental school that you ended up getting an offer from?
Yeah, that was the one dental school I was waiting on, and that was the only one I got an offer from. So yeah.
All right, go hard or go home. All right.
Yes.
Nice one. So I mean, things were a little bit different when you guys applied to dental school. What with the pandemic and how things are now. What would you say are some of the main differences or subtleties to applying to dental school in this climate?
Online interviews.
Yeah, I think that's a big change. I think in terms of the actual process, things have become a lot less clear in the sense of there's a bit more ambiguity. So as Robbie just mentioned, there's online interviews, but at the same time, you can't really go down the traditional route of, okay, get a high UCAT, get good A levels, get good GCSEs, get your work experience done. Now it's a bit more convoluted because it's like, well, you might get like good predictions, but then they get pushed down because of the new system, and it's all a bit of a headache. So generally speaking, I'd say one of the big changes is you just have to be a lot more tenacious now than I think we had to be back in our day. Like if you really want to you have to really search for the work experience, and you have to really make sure that you're standing out from the crowd. And yeah, I do feel bad for the dental students that are kind of applying now. I'm not saying that we had it easy, because we did have to we actually had to do our A levels, which was a challenge. But at the same time, there's a lot more ambiguity now, and because of what happened during the pandemic, and a lot of people got their entries deferred, the competitiveness for dentistry has risen significantly. Like I don't think people realize. So yeah, good luck to everyone applying, but it's a challenge. You have to be really, really driven and tenacious. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, I think some of the differences, like maybe not having to see your A levels and the online interviews, because I think MMIs are such a good way of interviewing potential candidates, but when interviews are online, there may not be MMIs. It may be difficult to try and get scenarios in like an online format. So that's definitely a disadvantage, I would say. But hopefully things are getting back to normal now. So yeah.
Okay, let's say you were coaching your younger selves into getting into dental school. We'll start with Faris, then move on to Robbie. Let's say you were given 2 minutes to pitch or say whatever to your younger self, and they're applying in this next cycle. Faris, what would you tell them? What nuggets would you tell them if you had 2 minutes?
Okay, so first things first is always remember you might be the smartest kid in the universe, but if you don't get the grades, you're not getting in. So focus on your A levels, focus on smashing your UCAT. They're your top priorities for now. The next thing I would say is identify why dental schools want you. So everyone is on a level playing field. You have a kid with 3 A stars in Manchester, 3 A stars in London, you're the same. What differentiates you is your unique factors. So find out how you can boost your leadership skills, critical thinking skills, communication skills, teamwork. Identify all these things that are making you a more holistic and built up character, and that's how you'll stand out with dental schools. And lastly, the most important thing, get some clinical work experience. No longer can you use the excuse of the pandemic. You have to get out there, DM dentists, email every single dental practice you can. It's easy, make a template, send it to everyone, and whatever you do, make sure you get some dental work experience. And honestly, I think if you can follow those rules, and you can, the hardest bit is getting the grades, you'll be very successful in your campaign.
Nice. Robbie, what would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, I'm apologize in advance because there's some overlap with Faris's, but definitely get more work experience. See as many different branches of dentistry as possible. Hospital dentistry, practice dentistry, be it NHS or private. Specialties, honestly, get stuck in as much as possible. Really make sure it's the career for you. And then my second tip would be get as much interview practice as possible. Practice with friends and family. Really work on those communication skills and just trying to come across as a suitable candidate to study dentistry.
Love it. You guys are smashing this out of the park, You guys are born to speak.
It's in our DNA.
Where does that come from? Yeah, let's talk about that. What makes you guys so easygoing in terms of being able to speak confidently, clearly? Where does that come from?
Ooh. So
I'll go ahead
if you don't mind.
No,
just
please.
because I found it really interesting, because I gave a talk recently and someone said the exact same thing to me, and like I'm trying to picture myself to how I was before dental school, in the early years of dental school, and I was definitely 100 times different to how I am now. I was never this confident with speaking. I was always quite shy. My communication skills weren't great. And now I feel like I've just reached a higher level. And I put that down to the podcast 100%. Starting the podcast, speaking to different guests, meeting dentists in person at conferences, or going to shadow them, which has kind of come about through the podcast as well, because it's really made me want to network as much as possible. I think that has put me in such good stead to becoming a better communicator and, becoming a more confident speaker.
Nice. How about yourself, Faris?
I feel like me and Robbie have really opposite paths, but we kind of have some congruence at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I've thankfully again, very lucky circumstances, very supportive parents. I've always kind of been the loud person. I love talking. I'm never quiet. There you go, Robbie's laughing. So yeah, my whole life I've loved public speaking. Really enjoy getting into different discussions. Like having, I like to speak basically. And I think that, and if I had to pinpoint where that comes from, I think it just comes from, I don't know. I think when I was a bit younger, I just always thought like, I've got something to say. Like, why am I going to be quiet? Let me just get involved and see how it goes. And then you start realizing, if you speak with a little bit of confidence and you have the right mannerisms, people actually listen to what you say. And I was like, cool, let me just keep doing this. And then with time, it really just ballooned up. I think the first time I realized I was actually good at speaking was I did an investment banking competition at my secondary school, where I was ranked against 150 students, and they were seeing, who would get the job, and I won that competition. So that's when I was like, okay, cool, I'm actually decent at this. And then public speaking. So I did a lot of talks at my sixth form to people that were aspiring to come in. That was really good experience. Did a talk for some HSBC bankers that were trying to do some investment at my sixth form. So I had to do a little pitch for them. So yeah, I've always kind of had experiences that have, very luckily been able to just hone that skill. And I've just always thrown myself at opportunities. I know that if I'm going to fail, it's fine, because even if everything goes wrong and I stutter and, I make mistakes, at least I'll learn from the experience and improve. So yeah, it's just kind of just brute forcing it. And then eventually I've got to the point now where I feel like I'm relatively confident. I'll talk to anyone as long as, they'll listen to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think from seeing everything that you guys have been doing, the podcast, networking, I think I admire the fact that you guys have been brave enough to step outside of the norm. Because the norm is just stick to dental school, stick to your lectures, do your revision, maybe pick up a sport, and then that's it. Graduate and start dentistry. But you guys have really pushed the envelope, and you're traveling up and down the country. You're doing videos, you're doing podcasts. So now I really admire that, and I want to now just switch it to dental school, because I wouldn't have had even the ideas to do what you guys are doing in dental school. Just tell us a little bit about how you felt that you could handle adding more to your plate in terms of the podcast, in terms of networking events. And I think you guys are part of societies as well, leading different things in societies. What gave you guys the ideas to even step out and do this, and the courage to do so?
Oh, great question. I think for me, it was looking and seeing what am I gaining out of dental school, and what skills have I developed, and what experiences have I had, and how can I improve on my weak points. So I realized in dental school, it gives you a fantastic theoretical base. I was learning a lot about, anatomy and, morphology, and make sure caries this, caries that. But I wasn't really doing the important part of dentistry, which is the communication and learning how to dive into, looking at interesting clinicians. So I just kind of thought, okay, cool. What can be done? How can I get myself out there? How can myself and Robbie, who I knew also had a similar mindset to me, be able to just expand our visions and get out there? And the podcast seemed like a great idea. And all the other things that we do because we really enjoy them. And I think myself and Robbie have got decent time management. So even though dentistry is it's a difficult course, which I'm going to put in inverted commas, because the difficulty comes from the quantity, not necessarily the actual content that's being taught, in my opinion. I think there's just a lot that you have to learn, and people get very overwhelmed and stressed. But if you have a good schedule, you can really ensure that you allocate enough time to do your studies and do a million other things outside of dental school. And the last thing I'll say is, I was also thinking, if I graduate and I've been at this institution for 5 years, what have I gained over, you know, everyone else has done the same thing. If I was just doing dentistry, I've gained nothing. I'm literally, you know, we're all the same. So how can I say that I've used my time wisely? So yeah, that's how I thought of it. I was just like, I'm just wasting time because I was just sitting and like playing PlayStation at home when I knew I could be doing things that can actually help progress my career.
Yeah.
Robbie?
Yeah. So funnily enough, I think my first kind of, you know, exposure to something extracurricular whilst at university kind of fell in my lap. One of my mates offered me the opportunity to become an events manager for a society, which the following year I enjoyed the role quite a bit. So I applied to be the the president. And then through my experience doing events as well, I applied to a different society to organize some of the balls for the dental students, so celebrating them reaching the halfway point of their degree, or them celebrating their graduation. I'd be organizing those events, and then, you know, because of my involvement with these societies, I was approached by someone else to kind of be involved with a charity, a dental charity as well. So because of that initial, you know, chance encounter and becoming the events manager for that society, it kind of led me to all these other amazing opportunities. The podcast as well, I would say it was more someone, you know, mentioned an idea, or one of our dental children mentioned the idea, and then me and Faris kind of put our heads together and went for it, and thought, you know, let's really network, put ourselves out there. And I think in terms of balancing it with dental school, I just feel like whilst I'm still young, whilst I was still in my early years, I said, let me take on different activities and see how much I can balance, and it will be a learning experience for me. Even if I fail, I will have learned some important lessons. And if I exceed at what I'm doing, then maybe next year I can add on a few more, you know, commitments and projects and things like that. So that's my outtake.
All right. And what would you guys say has been profound or enlightening about doing the podcast? Maybe some conversations you've had with clinicians. What has stood out to you guys? Have certain things been reinforced? Have certain myths been dispelled? Just give us like a concentrated version of what you've been learning from all these conversations you've been having.
Yeah, I feel like one of the main things that Faris and I always wanted to find out was, you know, how to specialize, and the different routes you can take in dentistry. So a lot of our episodes are talking to different specialists, and finding out what that specialty is involved with, and how to train to become a specialist in those specific specialties. So I think that's a key theme that we've kind of incorporated into the podcast, and that's kind of, you know, answered a lot of questions that we had going into making the podcast. Also some other things, I think the things that have been reinforced is our combined passion for implantology. We really like that. We've had a couple of guests on now that have talked about implants, and for me and Faris, it's kind of been enlightening. It's opened our eyes up to certain procedures, certain training pathways, and we've been lucky enough to go and shadow an implantologist as well, and it's just reinforced the fact that we love implant surgery a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, but those are some of the key things, you know, from the podcast.
Yeah. Only thing I'd really add to that is just reinforce the breadth and depth of dentistry. Like, you have people that are specialists in one thing, but they do such different things. Like, they've got their own things that they love and they're amazing at. And, you know, you've got someone like Dr. Monkhouse, Rupert Monkhouse, who's really, really hyper focused on dentures, which myself and Robbie, like, we don't need to lie. We were like, oh, this is like, why would someone want to do dentures? But seeing that perspective really shows you, okay, well, what you do at dental school isn't necessarily directly translated to what you do in dentistry, because once you're out there, there is a whole different market. You've got so many different brands you can work with, so many different materials, so many different combinations, and you create your unique style. I think that's one thing that was really reinforced when we did the podcast, which is everyone has their own spin on things. It's not just Invisalign and, you know, you're all going to get the same work. It's like, okay, well, Invisalign, but you've got this technique. You want to try this method. You've got this type of patient, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's been cool.
Fantastic. Hey, you guys getting the education that some of us never had in dental school, but it's because you guys have been stepping out of the boat and really trying different things. In terms of dental school, the experience of dental school, you're going to be one of the unique or only cohorts that experienced dental school before COVID, during COVID, and out of COVID as well. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
True. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. One word I describe it as is frustrating, for a matter of reasons. I think the main one is just because there's just certain things that just had to be stopped. Like when there's a pandemic, you can't see patients. Like, there's nothing you can really do about that. And as a result, dentistry is literally like, if you need one thing in dentistry, it's practical experience. And when that gets eliminated, it's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm not just going to read up how to place composite. I need to actually do it. It's a very hands-on thing. If you want to become a good footballer, you don't read about football, you play football. So yeah, that was something that was very enlightening. But I think we're kind of at the light at the end of the tunnel. Things have kind of grown up now, and myself and Robbie are seeing a lot more interesting cases. And obviously, because it's post-COVID, you know, there's the demands coming back. So frustrating, but at the end of the day, I feel like our year group got affected, but we're kind of seeing the benefits now because things are kind of starting to get back to normal, which is good.
And Robbie, just tell us then a little bit more about how dental school is now that we're getting back to normal.
Oh, dental school right now is amazing. Honestly, like we've been seeing so many patients, and it's been so cool because, you know, prior to COVID, the last thing we had done was phantom head work, and then after COVID, now we're seeing patients, and it's like great. I've been waiting so long for this. It's great because we're in our, you know, final couple years of dental school post COVID, and you really get to combine learning about dentistry and actually practicing dentistry, and both of them together is such a cool and interesting mix. It's kind of like you learn something, you put it into practice almost straight away. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Even you know, when you have exam stress and it's exam period and whatnot, even through those moments, I found dental school really enjoyable post COVID.
Yeah, and so for those that are now about to get into dental school, or maybe first year, second year in dental school, what would you be saying to that group of students?
Make the most of dental school. Don't get complacent. I'd say the biggest thing that occurs in dental school is you have this kind of paralysis that occurs because everyone's telling you it's meant to be really, really difficult and it's going to take so much time. So you kind of create a reality that's not there. Like, you make things harder than they have to be. Just be smart, you know, look at be objective, look at the work that needs to be done, get your lectures done on time, work with others in your year, speak to older years. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give. Speak to older years. They've got so much advice. Like, they've done it all before. Dentistry's not changed. Teeth are teeth, dentine's dentine, enamel's enamel. If you know that, you'll be fine. And another piece of advice I'd say is try and find something that you can latch onto that you enjoy that will allow you to develop something new. So for me and Robbie, we really enjoy doing the podcast and, you know, social media and kind of putting ourselves out there. I think myself more with like the YouTube stuff, but also with the podcast. So find the thing that you like. Find something that's going to give you a little bit of an edge, because 5 years is a long time. You don't need to spend all of it just looking at teeth. So yeah, that's the kind of best piece of advice I can give. Like, find your passion, find something else to latch onto just doing dentistry.
And Robbie, how about yourself?
Yeah, my piece of advice would be put yourself out there. Put yourself out there as much as possible. Take every opportunity you can. It's very different to school. Not everything is going to be handed on a plate to you.
Yeah.
On a silver platter. I was going to say silver plate, but then I stopped myself and I just said plate. Anyways, so take every opportunity you can. Really put yourself out there, be it societies, be it picking up a sport, investing time in learning a new hobby or something else, like, you know, editing or, you know, things like that, YouTube. Just really put yourself out there, make yourself stand out. That's my best piece of advice, and have fun, because like as I said, it's exciting now that post-COVID dentistry is a really exciting field to be in. So just have as much fun as possible.
Right. So, I mean, there's so much to be excited about in terms of dentistry and the future of dentistry. But from your guys' perspective, are there any fears, any things that you're a bit anxious about in terms of being dentists and practicing as dentists for the rest of your careers? Are there things that you see or hear about that concern you at all?
I'm gonna let Robbie start. Definitely, Robbie. Go ahead, bro.
The concern for me around dentistry is always the fear of litigation, and it's a big fear among dentists. There's various studies, and it can really take a toll on someone's mental health and things like that. So that's always a big fear. But I mean, as long as you're doing the best you can, you're really reinforcing your knowledge as much as possible through CPD and going on courses and just basically doing no harm and doing good at all times to your patients. I think that worry should be alleviated. That's probably my biggest worry. And then the second thing is, nowadays you're always hearing these things to do with NHS dentistry and a lot of dentists leaving the NHS. That's also a big worry, because following our 5th year, majority of us will be going into foundation training in the NHS. So it's a big worry about what's the future going to hold after I finish DFT. Am I going to stay in the NHS? What's life going to be like in the NHS, or will I go private? If I go private, where am I going to find the job? What type of patients will I want to see? Things like that. It's the uncertainty, I guess. So yeah, those are probably my fears or worries.
How about you, Robbie? Sorry, Faris.
I'd say litigation again is something obviously that's always on any dentist and dental student's mind. And I think people have this idea of, you shouldn't be worried if you do everything right. Trust me, you can do everything right and still get sued. That's just life. There's this thing called patient expectations, and you may not reach them, you may not have the right assessment. So that's obviously a worry. I think another one is just complacency and boredom. Just with regards to dentistry, like, this is something that needs to be explored. If you don't find that thing that you really love, then it can be quite a process and quite a grind. Obviously, myself and Robbie are quite lucky that we really enjoy implants, but I might start doing them and not love them as much as I think. And there's a lot of investment that you have to do into these different courses and different things to find what you love, and you just want to ensure that you really nail that. So I guess that's kind of a worry. It's not a massive one, because I'm more than I really believe in. People always say, how do I make money when I'm young? For me, I don't really care. It's more about how do I invest that money well? And the best way to do that, just invest it in yourself, build your skill base, and then over time, those dividends will pay off. But yeah, it's a good question. But the main one is probably litigation, and just I don't want to be bored and feel like I'm not using up my potential. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just want to be explorative as a dentist.
Yeah, no, litigation will always be there. It'll always be there. But one thing that makes litigation less of an issue is having exceptional communication skills, which you guys have at an early stage. I don't worry for you guys, because you speak well, you communicate well. I'm sure your patients will find you likable and relatable. So I don't worry for you guys in that respect. You mentioned the thing about income and finances, investing. Does money ever come up in conversation as dental students? Do you ever think, is dentistry a well-paying job? Is it worth it in this day and age? Do you guys have these discussions? Is dentistry still appealing on a financial side?
Oh
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel like people think it's a taboo subject to talk about money, but it's not. Like, it's unfortunately, having money solves all your money problems, and money problems are some of the worst problems you can have. So it's a great career. I think it allows you to have an amazing rate of flexibility and growth in your income, and down a load of different paths. Like, everyone always says, if you want to make money, go into economics. It's like, yeah, but have you seen how long an investment banker works? you know, it's interesting. So yeah, I think dentistry is a fantastic career to go down. Financial, if you're thinking about financially, whether or not it should be your main focus, absolutely not, because I still say, and I still stand by the fact that there's a lot of stresses and there's a lot of investment of time and effort you need to put in to become a good dentist. So you need to actually love what you're doing and not be doing it just to make money. So I'm 100% sure, you know, for me at least, I'm not doing it for the money per se. Of course, that is a good factor, and I'm sure Robbie's the same. But you should also be aware that, you know, have the passion, and also a nice little thing on the side is that you can have a great income as well. So yeah, I still think it's a fantastic career. I love dentistry as a career, to be honest with you. It gives you so much flexibility, and if you want to go down the entrepreneurial route, it's super duper easy. You know, you have people that are making courses, or you can buy your own practice, or you can do something completely different. It's pretty excellent. So yeah, I love it, to be honest.
Robbie, do you ever have financial worries about being a dentist in this day and age?
No, not particularly. I think, like Faris said, you know, it's no secret dentistry is a very well-paying job, especially in the UK, and in a lot of other countries. That goes without saying. I think, like Faris said, it shouldn't be the main thing. He always says that, and I've said it multiple times as well. It's just kind of one of the appealing things of dentistry, but you know, for myself, the main reason I got into a healthcare profession is because you want to help people. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people. And for me, dentistry kind of gave was so appealing because you get an amazing work-life balance. You get to speak to people all day. You get to help people. And yes, you do get a good income. And again, something Faris has said a lot of times is that there are many, many, many other well-paying jobs out there. You know, if you're thinking about money, then, you know, dentistry would not be as high up there as an investment banker, for example. But it's definitely a benefit. And, you know, I think as well, just reinforcing the fact that it shouldn't be your main priority is very important.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, man, we've just covered a few points, but you guys are answering them so well. We could keep going on for hours and hours.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
That's good part 2.
Yeah.
Part 3, make it a trilogy.
That'll be sick. A series.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
One thing I also want to ask you is, how do you see? Okay, so there's been news articles about there being dental deserts, mainly with NHS practices across the country, where because people are handing back their NHS contracts and commitments, less dentists providing NHS dentistry, there's these deserts in the country where you can't find an NHS dentist. I want to talk more about areas maybe that find it hard sometimes to recruit dentists. So I know in our area in the Northwest, it's more towards Cumbria, that side of things, where it's very difficult to recruit dentists. What sort of things do you guys consider when you're looking for areas to work in? You know, yeah, let me not put ideas into your mind, but I want to hear from you guys. What would you consider when thinking about areas to practice dentistry for the long term in?
I haven't really thought about this too much. I mean, I think it was kind of you that taught us about you know, marketing and kind of like it's not about it's all about finding a target kind of profile of patient that you want to attract to you know, your practice. So for me, I feel like you know, specific area it's not really on my mind. I just feel like whatever area I'm in, I'm going to try and, you know, once I reach higher up in my career, try and market a bit to focus on a certain type of people. Whether I go into implantology, then my marketing will be focused on that. So I feel like there's no one area that kind of appeals to me specifically, if that makes sense.
Are there certain things you'd look for in terms of lifestyle? So would you want to be by the beach? Would having a thriving city matter to you? You know, amenities, that sort of thing. So more for lifestyle, would a particular type of area draw you more than another, or are you open to everything?
Okay, I've understood. Sorry. So yeah, I think I'm much more into a quiet area. I don't like areas that are too busy, that where everyone's in a rush, sort of like London. I'd prefer to be somewhere close to the beach, or somewhere where I can, have a really nice area where I can just unwind after work. Again, a quiet neighborhood. You probably thinking, if for family lifestyle as well, some good schools, good transport links. Those are probably the key things that I'd look for in an area.
Yeah, Robbie's talking like a dad there. Good areas. Faris, how about yourself?
Yeah, I just super quickly on the NHS desert thing. Just want to say one thing. I think that's really important to talk about, like NHS deserts. I think it's a thing to do with government reform and contracts. So that's like one, just very quickly, in case anyone's thinking, why is this happening? I think it's a government reform thing in the whole UDA system. But back to the actual question, what I'm looking for is definitely, I just want to have a good quality of life. And that generally means I just want to be in a place that's full of like interesting experiences. I really love London. I'd want to probably stay in a city for while I'm still young. But over time, I think similar to Robbie, I want to go down the old man route. I just want to go somewhere nice, peaceful.
Yes.
I really like. I love like I'm kind of in Essex. I really like Chigwell and like Epping Forest area. Like those places are very nice and green and not too far from London. It's like 20-30 minutes on the train. Other things I kind of look at, I guess, this is really interesting because I've not actually thought about this. I guess the other thing I'm kind of going to have to look at is just like, what I can do in terms of like practice management. So obviously, if you're in a city, if I want to go down the route of owning my own practice down the line, which I'm still kind of thinking about, if you're in the inner city, it's extremely expensive and quite unrealistic. But if you go a little bit further out, it kind of gives you that ability to have a little bit more leeway and open a place up that's, like a squatter practice, for example. That's a little bit cheaper. So yeah, but generally speaking, I just want a place, good quality of life, near a city, most likely. I think I want to be near the city. I love it. I love London, and yeah, that's it really. I think beach. Yeah, I love the beach, but I've got a car. I just drive there when I feel like it.
No, fantastic. It's interesting to hear, because the stereotype you hear is that young dentists don't want to go anywhere that's more remote or removed from the large cities like London or Manchester or Birmingham. So it's just interesting to hear your guys' perspectives. For me, I wanted to be somewhere where it was quieter. Weirdly enough, I figured out that I don't like anywhere with over 250,000 or more people population.
Nice. I like how you got the number.
Yeah, because I lived in Derby. That was about 240,000 ish, and I enjoyed that. That was good. I went to uni in Leicester. That's like 320,000. I was like, okay, this is a bit too much. I couldn't do this long term. And then I came to Preston, which is like 140,000. I was like, yeah, this is right for me.
Nice.
So for me, that's how it worked out. But just as we're closing it off, I just want to hear from you guys. What's one or two interesting things that people might not know about Faris and Robbie?
Interesting things. As in like even like personal life and stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be dental, just anything.
All right. I am part of Scouts UK. So I work with Cub Scouts. They're aged between 8 to 10.5 years old. That means I basically help them achieve their badges. So badges are like the little like round ones that you sew on your jumpers and stuff. So that would involve me like making fun activities for them each week. And like giving them like educational and interactive lessons for them to achieve their badges and kind of learn new life experiences and new skills.
Love it. And yourself, Faris?
Yeah, I'd say one thing, which is actually, again, like we've got some parallels, myself and Robbie, is recently registered a charity with two good friends of mine, like an actual charity to help kids and homeless people and people in need across the UK and abroad. So that's one thing that I'm really passionate about. Been doing charity work for the last few years now, sometimes with Robbie as well, raised like some good amounts. And the second thing is that people might not know is I'm really, really keen on investing. I think it's really important I love compound interest, just generally speaking in life when it comes to like myself and with money. So yeah, that's one thing I love investing, and I can talk about it for days.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I love compound interest. That's a
Yeah.
Guys, where can people find you? If people want to get to connect with you and just have a chat with you, where can people find you?
Yeah, so we have our podcast together, which is at You Know the Drill Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then myself, I've also got my own kind of YouTube channel and Instagram under the handle at Faris Dent, where I kind of talk about a little bit of dentistry and more like self-improvement, optimizing, being a bit more productive, and kind of making the most out of your career. So yeah, that's how you can find us.
Robbie, have you got any extra handles we should be thinking about, or did Faris have one more?
Faris is great. He's memorized them all off by heart because he does the outros for the podcast, and that includes you can find us here. So he's covered everything. Amazing.
Perfect. No, guys, thank you for giving up your time to have this chat with me. We're gonna have to do some more in the future, updates, catch up.
Yes,
whenever you guys are up north or I'm down south. Actually, yeah, I'll have to let you guys know when I'm next down south to see if we can meet up and do something. But thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having us.
It was great
catching up.
Love it.